food. I want to thank our good colleagues at WIC who provide 64,000 meals each day in South LA and support 7 million mothers. I want to thank LA Unified School Board member Charlotte Newville, representing District 1. We know LAUSD is responsible for feeding little ones every single day. And I want to thank Jennifer and Sam with Food Access LA and Sunrise Organic Farm for highlighting the economic struggles that so many of our communities face when it comes to accessing food. We are here. I am Congresswoman Kamlager-Dove. I represent the 37th Congressional District. We are in my district. And I have to say, with each stroke of the Sharpie, President Trump is doing all he can to exhaust us with his chaos and confusion and deny us rights and actually our taxpayer dollars that were allocated to keep us alive, to keep us fed, to keep us safe. And all of this mayhem is actually designed to distract us from the fact that eggs are still $15. Yes. Let's talk about the fact that eggs are $15. And this person ran on a platform that said he would bring the cost of eggs down. Remember when he talked about stopping the steal? Well, we are seeing in real time that the stealing is happening. They are stealing our taxpayer dollars through this Republican ripoff, giving it to the billionaire boys club that were sitting behind him in Inauguration Day. Folks who are already wealthy and who will be getting richer and richer and richer, while communities and families across our districts are struggling to find eggs, struggling to access shelter, struggling to make sure that they're sick, their grandparents, their young people have food to eat. I am not being partisan, I am sharing facts. We have to be very clear. It is Congress's responsibility to allocate these dollars. Congress has the power of the purse. And we allocated these dollars to go to vital programs, to these community groups that you see standing here with me, to do the necessary work that they do, the vital work that they do, to feed our seniors, to feed our young people, to feed those that need access to fresh food, accessible food, cheap food. And this president, through his executive orders, through this executive memo, is circumventing, usurping the power of Congress, the authority that we have. Our voice is your voice. And this president is trying to silence your voice and the voice of Congress through these executive orders, through this funding freeze. And you say, what would these funding freezes do? Well, let me break it down to you. Trump's federal funding freeze will increase grocery prices, making it more difficult for families to put food on the table. It will threaten meal service programs that disable seniors, the elderly, and those who are sick and who are on fixed incomes rely on. It will result in children sitting in classrooms with empty bellies, thinking about where they're going to get their next meal rather than how to do that math on the bulletin board. And they will jeopardize funding for baby formula for mothers who are on WIC. I can tell you, Trump is not missing any meals. But 1 in 4 Angelenos suffer from food insecurity. 62% of children in LA County rely on free school meals, and eggs are still $15 if you can find them at the grocery store. And on top of that, folks across this county are now dealing with the devastation of the fires, which is complicating folks' ability to access food and to pay their bills. We need and deserve a president who has empathy. That should be a fundamental trait of any leader, to lead with empathy and to find ways to work on behalf of everyone. Food should not be political. Food should not be partisan. Food is about saving and healing and keeping folks safe. The American people elected Donald Trump to lower costs, not to create chaos. And now we have phones ringing off the hook from my government office and government offices across this country, at the local level, at the state level, at the federal level, and nonprofit organizations across this district, across this country, phones ringing off the hook. People are saying, what is happening? Will I be able to find food to eat, to give to my child? Will my grandmother be able to get a meal? We have an obligation to say yes. This president has an obligation to honor the work that Congress did last year to appropriate these dollars so that all of these programs can happen and all of these babies and seniors can get the food that they deserve. I will say, the press secretary for the administration was asked about this. She was asked, do you know that eggs are still high? And she blamed Joe Biden, who is no longer president. Joe Biden is no longer president, but eggs are still $15. And the federal funding freeze is going to kill people. It really will. There are so many folks living hand to mouth who are incredibly dependent on all of these programs that help everyone, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of your gender, your race, your religion, your ethnicity. It is based on need. And this is what we should be standing up for. So, I care. I know that everyone here standing with me cares. And this press conference is about talking about all of the things that are at risk and why it is so important that we push back and do all that we can to force a complete rescinding of these executive orders and of this funding freeze. We cannot do all of this in the courts. We have got to stand firm and push back and make this administration deliver on its promises. And the promises were to lower costs, not to create chaos. So with that, I want to introduce LA Unified School Board member for District 1, Charlotte Newville.
Thank you and good afternoon. As mentioned, my name is Charlotte Newville. I am the board member for LAUSD, Board District 1, one of the largest school districts in the country with elected official, as well as the second largest in the country. Our food service division, known here in Los Angeles as Cafe LA, operates one of the largest school breakfast programs and the second largest national school lunch programs in the United States. Cafe LA serves over 530,000 meals each day, which includes a healthy breakfast, a lunch, and supper after school. This would translate into about 100 meals a year, which includes over 225,000 breakfasts per day, as well as lunch, and about 45,000 suppers and snacks and meals. And we also provide lunches during the summer months of about 240,000. Under California Universal Meal Program, LA Unified students get breakfast, lunch, free of charge daily. Our students are committed to giving them the mission of nourishing our children to achieve excellence. And it's accomplished through various meal programs, multiple student-approved meal choices, and they provide healthy nutrients and energy to each of our academic students and their physical growth. And I know this to be true because I have two young boys within LA Unified. I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old that are growing. And so more than 81% of LAUSD students qualify for our free and reduced lunch, and the district plays a vital role in this in providing the nutritional support for many of our students as the main source of nutrition by our Cafe LA. Cafe LA team, it plans meals in compliance with the United States Department of Agriculture and the California Department of Education and the nutritional standards. Cafe LA meals, they align with the district's good food procurement resolution that supports our regional food system and its economical viability and social responsibility. Cafe LA also offers multiple daily options for our students, so they get vegetarian choices as well as vegan options as well. And we're also good stewards because with this program, the district has implemented a Save It for Later program, which allows our schools to minimize food waste and allow our students to save the non-perishable items and eat it outside of their meal period. So ultimately, LAUSD is providing vital lifeline, as mentioned, and it's so appropriate to be here for all peoples. in this community center because we're providing food for all peoples and their families in the way that we serve in our food service program. So any disruption in this federal disbursement of our program and the funding from the United States Department, as mentioned by the Congresswoman, would have an adverse impact on our ability to serve more than 500,000 meals daily to our students in the city of Los Angeles and 26 surrounding cities. So it's imperative that we stand up and we speak and understand just the value of food to making sure that sound body and sound mind, and that we are giving our students the ability to achieve and be the best that they can. And so this is imperative that we continue to make it known and to speak loudly that these cuts and these freezes cannot happen because they will impact our families and our students greatly. Thank you for allowing me to share. And coming up next, I'm sorry, I had another responsibility too. Maricela, with our WIC South LA Health Program, will offer some comments.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am the Executive Director of the Lundquist WIC program serving in South Los Angeles. WIC serves nearly 7 million mothers, pregnant women, children who rely on the program to access nutritious food, breastfeeding support, infant formula, nutrition education, and resources to healthcare referrals and to many others. Nearly half of all infants born in the United States are on WIC. Half of all infants. So WIC has been a pillar of support for moms, babies, and young children for over 50 years. This year is our 51st year. And we will do everything possible to ensure the continued success of the program and all the services we provide. As Executive Director of the Lundquist WIC program, I have been tasked with safeguarding the most vulnerable. It is an enormous responsibility, and I can't do it alone. We need everyone's help. We in South Los Angeles serve 63,000 participants a month, and our agency is the third largest in California. California serves over 1 million participants monthly. While we are grateful that the administration reversed the course, this uncertainty definitely could have been prevented and avoided altogether. Families deserve stability, not confusion on whether they could access the health and nutrition services that they rely on. Every day, WIC benefits provide critical support for moms and for children, ensuring access to nutritious foods. Placing this lifeline at risk would be devastating for the millions of families. Any action from the federal government could actually lead to an outcome that cannot all be prevented. Disrupting WIC benefits would have widespread consequences, affecting producers, retailers, community partners, and local economies. Every dollar spent on WIC leads to long-term health and economic benefits, reducing healthcare costs and improving child outcomes. Any disruption to WIC's funding would jeopardize the nutrition, the breastfeeding support, and healthcare services that babies and young children rely on. Without access to these critical resources, newborns and breastfeeding infants face heightened health risks, as their mothers may lose essential support for breastfeeding and access to infant formula during a critical stage of development. Families would be forced into difficult decisions about how to feed their children, putting their well-being at serious risk. We are grateful for the outpouring of support that WIC has received during this time, and the message from the community should be heard loud and clear. Policymakers should not put babies and young children at risk. We urge federal leaders to ensure that WIC's funding remains the same and that it's secured and not interrupted. Thank you. And now I have the pleasure to introduce Richard with Project Angel Food.
Thank you so much, Marisol. It's so fitting that I follow you because my mother worked for a WIC program in El Paso, Texas. She actually taught homemakers how to cook healthy meals. And here I am, just a few years later, as the CEO of Project Angel Food. Hello, everyone. I'm Richard Ayub. Project Angel Food cooks, prepares, and delivers 1.5 million meals a year. All of them are medically tailored. And so we started just doing comfort food, and as we evolved through 35 years, we now do meals that bring out positive health outcomes. So, for instance, if someone has diabetes, the meals help bring the A1C levels down. If someone has kidney problems, it has reduced potassium, phosphorus, and sodium so that they can stave off dialysis in some cases, because food is medicine. And so we serve people with cancer, heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, kidney failure, and HIV/AIDS. So this is where the federal funding comes in. About $1.2 million a year comes to Project Angel Food through federal funding. Some of that money goes through community service block grants. That would be frozen. Some of that money comes through the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, which is a division of FEMA. And that's really important because we provide food and we're helping people keep their shelter because it's an intervention against homelessness. 2/3 of our clients say, if we didn't get your food, we would have no other food source. And because we don't have to pay for food, we can pay our rent. So we're keeping people in their homes, and because we're in their homes every single week, we know what their conditions are. Now, the last source of funding, which is the largest source of federal funding, is through the Ryan White Care Act, which provides funding for people living with HIV/AIDS. We have had this funding since it was initiated in 1991. Every single administration has kept it intact. It has never been threatened like it is now. So we have 549 people living with HIV. Now, you wonder, why are people on HIV getting food? These are the people who have had HIV for years, who have all the different drugs back in those days, and they have neuropathy. They have good days and bad days. They have survivor syndrome. They also go through depression and other things. And so we are going to keep them on the program, obviously, no matter what. Project Angel Food has a motto: for life, for love, for as long as it takes. And we take that motto seriously. So we do not want this funding to go away, but Project Angel Food, through our supporters, will keep feeding these people no matter what. Thank you very much. Now it's time to introduce our good friends at the Food Access LA, Jennifer Grissom.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I'm Jennifer Grissom. I'm the Executive Director of Food Access LA. We operate 8 farmers markets throughout Los Angeles. And in addition to that, we have several programs that support and nourish our communities. We have programs for nutritional education. We have programs that supplement and enhance SNAP benefits. And what I really want to talk about today is the economic impact that we're already seeing from the chaos and the confusion and the fear that is happening. Our mission is to support farmers and to feed families, and we are passionate about both of those things. And it's very clear that if we do not have these programs to support our families in purchasing and accessing fresh fruits and vegetables, there will be detrimental effects to our farmers. And if those farmers are not allowed and able to grow food, they don't have a place to bring this food, we will all suffer. It will have long-term negative effects economically, health-wise. We will see this regardless of who you are, regardless of your socioeconomic status, regardless of your political affiliation. This will happen. We are, again, already seeing these things happening at our markets. these programs not only allow people to access this fresh fruits and vegetables and support these farmers, we teach them how to make these life-changing things in their home and their family so that they continue to be healthy, that they can have these positive long-term effects. So this is not just about today or tomorrow or just about a pause. We will see these effects. I am very pleased to have with us today one of our favorite farmers, Sam Watson from Sunrise Organic Farms, and she's going to speak a little bit about her personal experience.
Thank you so much for having me here today, guys. I'm here on behalf of Sunrise Organic Farm. We are a 300-acre certified organic farm out of Santa Barbara, minority owned. Jesus Salas and his son Chewy Salas, along with Andrew Gibson. As my friends know, this is something I could talk about for hours, the importance of this funding and its impact on farmers. So I'll start with this. I have been in ag since I was a kid. I'll try not to get emotional. It's tough times right now to be in ag. I have been in agriculture since I was a kid. And I've always thought that farmers were the unsung heroes of the world. As I've gotten older, I've realized that they truly are. Congresswoman brought up the cost of eggs. Why is that happening? Why are they $15, and why, regardless of monetary value, are they not even available? And the answer to that, to put it simply, is that we have streamlined our food and where it comes from. Essentially every commodity, whether it be eggs or carrots, you can trace it back to one entity. So when these recalls happen, everything gets recalled. And the consumer is left to support on farmers like us. The funding that Food Access LA provides single-handedly keeps us afloat. If we cease to exist, if this money is frozen, we will not exist. And I want everyone to understand, regardless of your socioeconomic class, this is something that will impact you. Because when those recalls happen, we won't be here. We won't have the eggs at the farmer's market for the same price that they always have been, with the smiles on our faces to ask about your kids and how they're doing. So again, this is something I could talk about for hours because this is an issue with so many layers, but I encourage you to care about it, regardless of whether you think it's going to affect you or not, because I can promise you that it will. Thank you.
There's really nothing else to say after Sam broke it down so succinctly, but I want to open it up for any questions that folks may have. I do want to say that the passion and the frustration is real. There are community-based organizations across this county, this state, this country that are all in the same boat. We are all working to figure out how to make people's lives a little easier and how to step in when government is not there. And what we are seeing right now is an administration that is saying we don't want government to help you at all. And that is not what government is about. That is not the responsibility of government, to just pack up and leave and blame everyone else and not provide supports. Disasters are going to happen. Poverty is still part of how we operate in this country, and need is still very real. And when you have a Congress full of Republicans and Democrats that still were able to pass a budget with money in it to fund these programs, and then to have that money frozen, you have got to ask yourself why this is happening, and you have to tell the stories of who it is going to impact. We are all connected to one another, and this money is incredibly important for us, for our neighbors across the street, across the county, across the state, across the country, and believe it or not, even across the world. And so we have an obligation to speak out against what is happening and to speak truth to power so that we can protect our community. That's what everyone here is trying to do.
During this pause, is the funding still flowing? Because I'm seeing here the National Science Foundation froze their funds. So people are affected there. So is it up in the air? It's like, I know it's in the courts, but what does this mean?
So we are getting conflicting information from the administration. I don't even know, quite honestly, if the administration knows what's going on. Because the folks, Russ Boyd, who is scheduled to be confirmed to run the Office of Personnel Management, was the one that was issuing out these memos with this funding freeze. The press secretary said, Trump didn't know anything about it, which I find to be hard to believe. But there are pauses across the entire spectrum of government. Humanitarian aid has been paused. Funding to help refugees get out of, precarious situations have been paused. Funding to farmers have been paused. The Medicaid systems across the entire country somehow shut down, and they blamed it on some computer outage. FEMA has been paused. They did a hiring freeze. So this horrific crash that happened without an FAA administrator because they did a hiring freeze. They don't have anyone at the top. These impacts are killing people, unfortunately. And so we have to push. This, what the court said, there was going to be a temporary block. There was a rescission to the memo, but not a rescission to the freeze. And the administration says they want to pause all funding so that they can review what all this funding is going towards. But in the course of 90 days or 45 days or however long that will take, people are going to be hurt.
So no money's coming out.
We are pushing, some money will probably flow. They are saying a case-by-case scenario, but Congress is pushing back because we are saying that the power of the purse lies with Congress, which has been already appropriated and allocated. And so unfortunately, we're going to have to legislate through litigation in the courts, which is no way to run an effective government.
I have a question. So hopefully all of us come together and send our support to make sure that we keep our funding, but have they said where this money is going to go? Should they take it away? Like what other programs are they going to hypothetically support? Do we know where all these millions of dollars are going to go if they get reappropriated to another program?
Well, what we have been told and what we have heard, the Congress, we have retreats and we talk about what we're going to do during the course of the term. Speaker Johnson has come back from his retreat. He has gotten information on what he has been told he is supposed to do on behalf of this administration, which makes sense. They are from the same party. This administration, Donald Trump has said he wants another kind of reconciliation, a budget bill. That includes raising the debt ceiling. That will include tax cuts. We believe that the pause to all of this funding is a way for this administration to claw back this money to pay for the tax cuts that he wants to extend back to the rich. So when you think about Marie Antoinette and let them eat cake and the poor dying, I feel like we are living the French Revolution all over again in 2025. Any other questions?
Question. You just mentioned it that there will be another reconciliation bill, so we know Congress will have to work on a new budget. So I think the curiosity is how, as like community organizations, we can work with our congressional members, because there's a pause and it's very unknown, and we know a new budget has to be enacted. And so I think there is concern that these ongoing programs and initiatives are potentially going to be cut, even in this pause.
I'm certainly going to open it up to others to respond to, but what I will tell you is this. WIC operates in states other than just California. We have organizations like Project Angel Food that are helping folks outside of California. School districts around the country are providing free lunches to poor children and poor families. We have farmers in communities across this country who are figuring out ways to sustain and survive because they are fighting against agribusiness and they're trying to get accessible, high quality, fresh produce, fruits and vegetables to their communities. All of these things are happening, and so it is incumbent upon community-based organizations to mobilize. We have to continue to share our stories, and we have to continue to remind folks that these organizations replicated across the country are helping everyone. And there are as many struggling families in rural communities as there are in urban communities. There are as many struggling communities who are white as they are API, as they are brown, as they are indigenous, as they are black. We have to remind this Congress and this administration that this is the United States of America for everyone. And the dollars that we appropriate in Congress are supposed to go to help everyone. They are certainly not designed to be clawed back to give to the folks who don't really need it.
Thank you.